Hey everybody, Texas Trucker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Mopars.com. It is Sunday, Father's Day here. Stupid hot, I guess 91 is not too hot, but it's humid for here, which makes it seem hotter than it is. But picked up some stuff from Zoro, sort of work needs, if you will, and we're going to get started with probably the least exciting item here. Again, everything's linked down below. I don't make a dime, it's solely there for your convenience, timestamps as well. But what we've got going is this item would cost $3.99, but of course we're thrifty, we got 20% off. It's $3.19 with that factored in. And this appears to be Dakota designs. I've never actually looked at these. Hopefully they don't suck. Let's see here. I want to say these were made in China. That looked to me like they had a bigger surface area than the others. Some fantastic packaging, if you will. This is what I've got. And you think, hey, what is that? Looks like it's sort of a magnetic clip. That's exactly what it is. It's a magnetic clip. I assume this circular depression here is there for you to sticker it or label it or something. What I bought these for is to go inside one of my inventory cabinets at work. I really only wanted one, but it came in a pack of two. Again, surprisingly, lots of these were available. This simply to me looked like it had the biggest area of a magnet. There were a couple of reviews. The people said these stuck better. What will they hold? I don't know. What am I hoping they hold? Think of it as kind of like work orders, but at the same time, I might want one of these to just hold a legal pad or a little notepad, you know, from like a supplier. Mainly just so I can like kind of jot out rough guidelines for people if I'm ever not the one that pulls anything, how to document what they've just done instead of just leaving it or throwing an empty box in the cabinet for me to find and wonder what's going on. 95% of the time I handle it all. Sometimes, you know, if I'm wrapped up with a customer or like unloading a truck, I can't. And instead of just having things at a standstill, somebody else gets the key and pulls. So it's very simple, but people seem to have problems understanding the simplicity. So hopefully this will walk them through it. Other thing, just reorder points. You know, like if I ever have to train people, you know, you come in and I typically keep, say, 250, you know, 5/8 by 2.5 inch bolts, and I don't reorder them when I'm out. I reorder them when they hit a certain point. Typically with that, you know, it's going to be at 200, and then boom, I buy 50 more. For some reason we were super busy or the supplier missed a week or something and we're lower than that, I basically keep that stocked at 250 at all times. Other bolts like 2 1/4, not as frequently, you know, used, not as big of a deal. You know, I might wait until we get down to like 150 to buy 100 of them. It's all about inventory management. I could ramble on for hours about that, as I've tried to master the art over the course of 20 plus years of my life. But I won't bore you with it. I will just say this is what I got. If you've used these, let me know. Again, this could come in something as simple as you want to hang a picture your kids made you for Father's Day on the refrigerator. You walk into Walmart or the grocery store and you see a magnet and you pick it up and it sticks to the refrigerator, and then you clip something in it and it slides down, right? And you're like, good Lord, what lighter item could I clip in this thing? This is sort of more on an industrial scale. The flip side of this, if I like this, I will look at this brand for other things. There's a lot of things we deal with that are very difficult to document, particularly like cable reels. You know, like if I come in and I know exactly where I'm riding, I've got what it is. You know, sometimes you get like 1,000 feet and they'll ship 1,040 or 1,030 or 1,025. That's drastically different, because then if you've mathed everything correctly to the end and a customer needs 75 feet and you sit there and you're like, oh geez, you know, this is only 40 feet, but guess what, there was 1,040 and not 1,000, you really have 80 feet. And that's ignoring the fact that people might cut something and not document it or write it on the other side of a reel. This is something I've tried to do for years. My original solution was to like put an index card cable tied in like one of those little clear pouches, like think of a smaller work order type of a deal. And the same thing, just people don't document it and then it's pointless. You know, like if 120 feet and 50 feet and 60 feet have gone and no one documents it, we're gonna at the end of the roll have to roll it out and see how much is there. And it's stupid, a waste of time, and if people would just follow protocol, they can all be avoided. This is sort of for my peace of mind and sampling, and if I like these, I'll probably be buying a lot of them or something similar from the same brand, maybe in bigger or smaller sizes. I don't know. I don't have a legal pad out here in the shop. Those are excellent for notes and documenting things. That would probably be the heaviest thing I would put in there, but if you deal with the same thing and you've got a good solution, by all means leave a comment, tell people what it is and where you source it. I'll take it from there. Surprisingly, it is quite difficult to find good magnets and good magnets with clips. And it's one of those deals, you either know about them and you got it sourced, or it's a constant pain in your butt. So, like I said, that's probably the least exciting thing. Second least exciting might honestly be, whoa, I've got a lot that nearly went wrong right here to the side of the camera, would be this item. This is a J5 2124. Some of you are like, J sounds like a proto number. And you'd be 100% correct. It's in this box. There it is. You can probably deduce what you think it might be, and if you did, you're probably 90% correct. What this sucker is, it is going to be a 3/8 drive, 13-piece set, shallow sockets, 12-point SAE. That's right, SAE, 3/8 drive, shallow, 12-point. Not 6, 12. MSRP typically at Zoro, you'd be looking at $65.50. That's actually a pretty big sale price, I'm not gonna lie. A significant sale price, and then we get to stack 20 on top of that. So this set of 13 American made chrome plated sockets, $52. You do the math, what's 13 into 52? Well, there's $4 a socket. And you think, that's kind of spendy though, you know, some of these, you know, it's 13 piece, probably have like a little quarter socket. What does it run through? It goes through 1 inch. So basically anything past 3/4, you start to get in the territory of, I don't know where you're going to find a good socket for $4. And yeah, you might say, well, the quarter could be cheaper, but you're getting a 1 inch socket for $4. I mean, the math works out perfectly. 13 sockets, $52, they're $4 a piece. Absolute steal. Like I've said a million times, and I continue to say, where's the Cuttix over here? I just cut down. This arrived in a terrible box. Like, I was worried, especially 2 of these items you can see next were gone. It was crushed really bad. It looked soggy. Felt soggy without being wet, if that makes any sense. The tape on the bottom was gone. I was like, oh no, somebody's pilfered this, or it was just tossed around and chucked so much something came out. Everything was amazingly there. Right here though, oh sweet, these have the new logo. I've had very mixed experiences with Proto's rails. When I first started getting these again, I thought, hey, these are the good quality, they're made in the USA. I know my quarters were okay. I want to say the 3/8 were. The 1/2 inch are not. They are terrible. I do think there was a 3/8 clip that just basically flattened out as I tried to install it. That's nice, the bag is actually tied on these, but I do want to open these up so you can see one, and mainly because they also have the newer Proto logo. A lot of what I bought has had the old logo, which I don't mind. It's just this is a little bit bigger and better visuals, if you will. So who will win? Well, we have a 3-way tie. 2-way tie, I'm sorry. And that looks terrible inside. That's probably the worst I've seen. This one's hard to see in, but the stamping on this, let's just go straight to the big guy, and we won't waste your time. So, what is the new Proto logo? Well, a lot of you probably don't know that it's not a new logo, but it's right there. Very well done, very hard to see with the chrome luster. Again, if you're into chrome, these are very, very well done. Got an individual part number there. Should you shatter or crack a sidewall on this socket, you know what to do, what to order. Right there, though, check it out. Not just the USA, but that 7/8 is pretty good. And again, this is not lasered. That is into the socket sidewall. So that's a win. Would it be nice if the backside had a big laser pad? Sure, but you know, this is going to be fine for me. These will probably, I don't know if they'll go on an Ernst or a MTS, one of the two, and it'll take care of that for me. But it's probably the worst interior finish I've seen on one of the recent Protos I bought. It's not that it's bad, it just doesn't look like it was consistent, and it could just be like assembly process crud. We could possibly clean it up. Let's try to get this next big one out and see what it's looking like. So what we have here, look how easy that is to see. And again, it's much easier without the glare from the light. That one's a little bit better, so I'm kind of thinking maybe it's just assembly debris. If I put these two side by side, 7/8, looks like I just took off some rusted and painted hardware. This one does not. So there you go. So what's the deal? I always like to tell people, why am I buying this? Well, if you're keeping tabs on it at work, we've gone almost entirely proto, and that's, again, quality. I've got personal experience with it dating back years. Kind of know what to expect, and it's just the value to the price. Could I find a nicer socket or a socket with features I like better? Maybe, but not when you factor in the price. Same thing, Koken is in that same ballpark. It's going to depend what sale you can stack, like what discount off you're getting. I would recommend you always shop around and compare prices, but between Koken and Proto, in terms of absolute value to quality, I don't think there's anything else on the market. Right, you can sometimes, you get really lucky, and then sometimes it's just not that big of a deal. Like, these Protos were 35 or 40% off before I stacked 20% on top of it. With the right sockets, you don't necessarily see that big discount right off the bat. And here we are. Right, so I love right sockets, love Proto sockets. Both are a fantastic deal. Best in the business, in my opinion, in terms of American made. The Koken stuff, again, I don't have the decades of experience with Koken as I do Proto and right, but what I've seen in the 4 or 5 years I've been using them, they're fantastic, and the price can't be beat. Every once in a while you can score German stuff surprisingly cheap, but then it's a deal, you get like this amazing once in a lifetime purchase on a quarter drive or half-inch drive set, and then you're waiting 4 or 5 years and you've never gotten anything remotely close to that for your 3/8 or your quarter. The other thing with Koken and Proto, I have access to 6-point and 12-point across the board. A lot of the German brands, especially with SAE sizes, and this is kind of a deal breaker for me, I can't get that. So these become very important to me in that regard. Again, this is 1/4 to 1 inch, no skips, 12-point sockets, beautifully finished. I'm sure I can clean the inside out. And if I can't, honestly, they were $4 a piece for an American-made socket. It's a win. That is kind of a no-brainer. So, but the reason I bought these, and we need to get back to that. The other day at work, we had this freak situation. It was one of those things where some in-bell bolts were basically just, rust does its thing, and the head is shrunk. It's still hex-shaped, it's kind of withered away somewhat uniformly. The situation, if we just took a, half 13 bolt and dropped it in a bucket of water, right, and left it for a couple of years, you pull it back out and it may still be hex-shaped, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to get my 3/4 bolt and see if we can break it free without treating it with anything. Well, guess what? That 3/4 socket now just spins, right? You're not catching any edges, and you're like, well, that's weird. I know this was a half-inch bolt, wasn't it? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I put the 3/8 in there or something. You grab 9/16, and maybe it's even too big. And you're like, well, okay, geez. And then you look at the sides, the profile, the shoulder and the thread. You're like, no, this has got to be a half-inch bolt. You look at the jar label, and you're like, 1/2 by 2-inch bolt. What's the deal? Every once in a while, the heads just wear perfectly, and that's what had happened here. And we're trying to get them out without cracking anything, meaning shearing the head off and leaving the bolt behind, which turns into a lot of unnecessary machine work. It's just 3, holding a bearing cap in place, if you will. You then go to your metric stuff, right? This is something we don't have a ton of at work, and for good reason. But sometimes, like if your 3/4 socket doesn't fit, the 19 may not fit either, but maybe the 18 does. You step down, and it's that type of a situation. And I had that happen, and I thought, man, if I had 12s, I wonder if I couldn't catch this. And typically everything at work is impact and 6-point. Even the chromes, that are left are, for the most part, 6. There's 12s here and there, but where the sets are so old, they're kind of broken down and divided up and stuff. So I want to take these there, have that to play with. And then the other situation I had is I was trying to catch that. Okay, we had a problem because I have a beautiful little breaker bar that I took to work. I have a 1/2 inch Ghidorah. I could not use that because my only 1/2 inch sockets there are impact. All the sockets are almost all impact at work, so it's not like I can go like jip one from a station and try it. It was just way too big of a socket sidewall. It wasn't going to fit with the clearances and everything. So I'm like, okay, I'll just step down to 3/8. Plus, the Ghidorah, I don't think I could fit my pipes over that. It's got the really chunky rectangular handle. So I have a Hazette there. This is a Stavila 3/8 breaker bar. I took the Hazette to work. The cool thing about the Hazette, the handle is really slim. Again, will I complain about my hand swallowing it? Yes, I do. It's filthy now, but we were there and the coworker was like handing me the pipe. I'm like, I'm not going to put a pipe on that. I'm going to tear up my handle. And that is the knock with anything like this. I don't care if it's Pittsburgh. I don't care if it's Snap-on. If it is a padded handle, it is luxury for pulling and trying to get maximum grunt, you know, without wearing yourself out, or on a tiny bar. It might just keep you from cramping up sooner. But they get chewed up. If I had these at a lathe, these would be junked. I don't know how long they would last. Maybe they last longer than I think. Maybe they don't last as long as I think they would. But, you know, when you put that cheater pipe on, it's going to tear these up. Even if you come in and you neck it down to here where you're getting your leverage point, just anytime that sidewall is going on, or as you know, you slide it up and down, it's going to chink, 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 just over time, chip away at these soft finishes. With that in mind, the Hazette handle is a little harder. It's the old style. It's not HP. It's like the previous handle style. But I was like, no way, dude. I am not going to risk that. So you come in and you think, well, hey, get something cheap and sacrificial like this one. For what it's worth, I think Capri has discontinued this style. They've gone to a different deal. I've always hated this handle, but I've used the snot out of this here at the house. Nothing bad to say about it aside from the handle. I also like the little detent here, right? It's kind of old school. In fact, if we come in, this one is going to look used, but it's not really me. This is the old Armstrong that we picked up from HJE. I have cleaned it up a lot, but it has that same deal. Now, I had the option of going back and buying one of these. You know, I was pretty impressed with this one. I've used it a few times, but I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to go with what I know. So, my most used breaker bar, I don't even know if this thing's ever been on the limelight. It's something that was in a box from my granddad. It's right here. Look at that thing. This is a Haas. It's amazing. It's super smooth. There's no detent there. And you come in and you're like, well, let's see. Oh, yeah. I should probably clean it up. You can see this one has had a bar on it quite a bit. Because, again, for a long time, this was my breaker bar. And you're like, okay, what do you mean? Like, this was it. This was my break. I had no quarter breaker bar. I had no 3/8 breaker bar. I didn't have a cheap, 25-inch Harbor Freight. This was my breaker bar. If you asked for a breaker bar, this was it. This is the only thing that I own. It's the only thing I had available. That's why it's seen so much use. That's why it's taken so much abuse. But if we dial it in here, you're going to see part number here. Well, I don't know if this is still available, maybe. Should have checked that, but it's a 5467. You can see it's Proto USA. And again, stuff like this, when I have years of experience with Proto, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I trust this thing, and I trust it because I've used the ever-living snot out of it. Okay. So, coming in, you're thinking like, well, that's 1/2-inch drive. How does this correlate to anything? Well, let me turn around and grab this gem for you. This is, as you might have guessed, from Proto, and this guy is going to typically run $41 with our discount. I picked it up for $32. The part number, I don't know if it's going to be correct. I'm going to go with a 426 G29, and if I drop it down, you're instantly going to be like, hey, that looks really similar. Again, no detent. It's buttery smooth as is. This is not me oiling it or anything. You'll note the chrome significantly has a better luster. Right here, that is what I'm going by for the item number. Again, we'll just run that it's correct. You can see it's got the new Proto logo. It's got USA there. And for those of you that know me well, it's the knurling. This isn't quite as aggressive as you might think it is. It kind of feels like it looks, if you want my honest opinion. We do have like the nice polish. Look, good lord, look at that. You can see all my sweet signs back here you never see. But if I set this down, end to end there, you're going to see this goes off camera. This is my OG trustworthy Proto. This is the new one. This one was basically 15, if I remember correctly. Again, you kind of measure from the yoke down. We're going to call that dead on 15. This one from the yoke down, I call it 18, but Proto calls this 18 and a quarter in the catalog. I don't know why. If you include the anvil, this clocks in at about 18 and 3/4. And they literally have it listed out as 18 and a quarter. And I trust the old Stanley here too. It's my longest tenured tape. And I'm going to go with 18 and a quarter, but we'll just say 18-inch really. And this is 15. The old Armstrong, if we stick with that same mythology, it's about 12 and a quarter. You get the idea, right? So this is what I selected for my 1/2-inch breaker at work. I do have the Ghidorah. I've used the snot out of it. My big concern, if you recall, instead of having a streamlined handle, or it's easy to put a breaker bar over, it's got the really nice padded handle, just like their big ratchets, but it's like rectangular. You know, it's not like a Capri or Stavilla where it's just an overmold or a snap-on even. It keeps that profile that Ghidorah has and likes. I've loved that thing. My big concern with it was, will it spin good? Because I am strange with breaker bars. I don't just break things free, but then I'll run things in with them. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So oftentimes I stand them up and I just spin, and I was like, I don't know about that square, you know, the rectangle is going to be weird to spin. It's actually not. It's not as fluid as you would have with this, or any of these for that matter, but it's actually been way better than I thought it would be, which is cool. And this one though, why is it going if we've already got the Ghidorah? It's slightly longer if I'm remembering correctly. Sadly, I didn't bring either breaker bar home with me, but even though this is beautiful, I won't mind putting a breaker bar on this. I'm not going to tear up a handle. I'll tear up the chrome finish, right? We'll scuff the knurling like you see here, but I'm not going to tear up a comfort grip that I paid extra for. So again, this is just one of those things. If you had this and you had this, this would be what you pull with. This would be what you use by hand. This is what I use that I stick, you know, an 18-inch pipe on. So that's the story there. I'm sticking to it. I want to come in here. I grabbed 1 1/8 Koken, right? This is going to be a nice little comparison for us. This would be like, imagine, this would actually be really good. This would be better than what I have here. What would we do with an 1 1/8 here at the house? Well, right behind me, we have a 440, and we could turn the crank, right? And we could turn her over by hand, and this would be really good for that. Fitment on this is excellent. Again, Koken 2 Proto there. The other thing I did is a lot of times what I have at work available, especially in my cart, since I have not purchased chromes, is I've just got my impacts. This is fine, it's going to work really good, but it's just a simple situation where sometimes your sidewall is too fat. Especially here with these rights, that highlights it very well. Proto's kind of a similar thing. Again, excellent finish, excellent fit, easy on, easy off. And the fact that we picked up a made in the USA breaker bar, 1/2-inch by 18-inch overall length for $32 it's hilarious. You know, this is when you have to be like, okay, hey, you know, Harbor Freight's slightly cheaper, but hey, you know, look at this. To be fair, I've used the snot out of the 1/2-inch Pittsburgh. I've never had issues with it. It does flex a little more than I would like sometimes, but she bends and doesn't break, so I'll call it good. To also be fair, 25, 24 inches is like way overkill for what you should be doing with a 1/2-inch drive anvil. So keep that in mind. There's a reason places usually stop, like Koken, for example. If you come in and you had this, which this is pretty much brand new still, we brought it in real recently. If you have this, they put like a warning, like, hey, this is longer than it should be, exercise caution. It's that type of a thing. This is a smidge shorter, the Koken, than the Proto. Now, if you're sitting there and you're like, well, hey, idiot, I thought you were telling us about 3/8 drive you were trying to use in your little Hazette and you didn't want to tear the handle. What does it have to do with a 1/2-inch? Well, we're going to go there. And we're going to go there right now. This next item, as you might have guessed from what I kind of like here with the Capri, roughly 12 inches. This one is exactly 12 inches. It is from, you might have guessed it, Proto. The item number, we're going to go with 1FX33Y. Again, you probably guessed that's what this tag says. So, again, I will have this stuff linked. This one, the Proto number here is stamped on the handle, and I can see it because the tag is down there. So if we zoom in, J5266, okay, that's what you should go by, not that item number. I don't know if that's a Zoro thing. Could be Zoro or Proto, I don't know. This one would have the same Proto number, it's just covered by that tag. I hate it. Duh. I hate when companies do this, like, don't ruin my finish and make me have to go clean it. The other thing that bothers me here, and it doesn't bother me on this one, if you look at this, I've got my thumb here at the yoke, and then I've got my thumb here at the start of the handle. See how the Proto is kind of centered? Like, you know, it might be off a little, but for the most part, you look at it and nothing egregious. I got my thumb at the top of the knurling, I got this thumb at the yoke, and here's your stamping. The stamping should realistically be centered, in my opinion. It's more out of harm's way here, unless you consider, you know, the cheater pipe kind of coming in probably in this vicinity. So that's really the only thing that bothers me on that, but this is glorious. It's smooth, excellent chrome job. Again, look at that. No issues, no detent either, if that's something you care about. The knurling, I'd say this might be ever so slightly more aggressive. It's probably just that one's got some oil on it or something. Again, full polish here. What I grabbed for us, we're going to start. I've got a little 9/16 Koken. Stick that sucker on there. Again, virtually no play in it. We'll rip that off. I grabbed a larger 15/16. Why? Because I use 15/16 on 3/8 a ton. A little bit more noticeable, that's to be expected. Good combination here. We're going to put the 7/8 on this sucker. And new Proto with new Proto, and man, that is a lot of chrome right there. So there we are. This is a 12 point. This is kind of what I was needing the other day, and again, I could put the pipe on it, and the sounds that thing was making. I gotta give it to the Hazette though. That is a significantly shorter breaker bar than this, the 3/8 one, and it would just god awful terrible noises, but she got it out. Started it, and then I was able to kind of hit it out. So it worked. Didn't have to do any crazy stuff with a drill press, and very, very happy on that front. But these two are super nice. Now this one should cost 28 bucks with a discount. 23. This is a 12-inch USA made high luster chrome breaker bar, which again, going by this guy, that's kind of what I'm projecting future use for this one. It's like a lifetime tool. You know, if you shear something off, you can probably get it warranted or something. Maybe it gets loose and annoys you, I don't know. But the bottom line, at that price for American made, it is a no-brainer. For comparison's sake, we recently brought in this Koken. These are almost identical. The Proto's got about anvil to anvil here. The Proto's just like half an inch, 3/4 of an inch longer. Coming in here, again, same thing, yoke to yoke. The Koken might be ever so slightly thinner, and the anvil is shorter, interestingly enough. The Proto, you think, well, how's that possible? They have to fit the same sockets. Look at this step here on the Proto. So you've got the ball, and then it comes in here. It's a circular machine before they square it off for the anvil. The Koken does the same thing. It just does it farther down. The Koken also does have a detent. In terms of quality 3/8 breaker bars, if you want a detent and you want knurling, I'd go Koken. If you don't want a detent and you want knurling, I'd go Proto. If you get this Koken on a sale, it would be probably a little bit more than the Proto. The Koken, interestingly enough, has a, keep in mind, this is not Z series, but it has a fatter handle than the Proto. Now up here even, might be a little bit thicker too, so these are excellent options for 3/8 breaker bars. But kind of pick your poison. Again, 6-step knurling on the Koken, and then traditional just diamond tread here on your Proto. So that's what I got for you in this haul. We got magnetic clips. We got a nice 12-point socket set. Doing shallows only for now. Maybe we'll try to catch a sale on the deeps. If you're curious, the deeps would be here if they had 40% off too. But they didn't, so we're waiting. And yeah, lots of really nice breaker bars for a guy that started with this one. So I would have to say I like the knurling better on this Armstrong, but I kind of like the smoothness of the Proto. And with that, I think we've covered everything. We just barely missed the 30-minute time out there, so we're going to wrap this up again. Magnetic clips, 1/2 inch, 18-inch long breaker bar, and then we got a 3/8 by 12-inch breaker bar. Again, these are not comfort grip. I love knurling. I also love not tearing up a handle that I paid extra for, so it's a win-win there. American made for dirt cheap prices. Same thing on the socket set. I'm sure if we pulled these out, like this is finished very, very well on the inside. I know the camera's not going to show that. It's mainly that 7/8 looked terrible interior wise, but this little 5/16 is immaculate. It's usually how Protos come. 1/4 to 1 inch, just for a song, basically like 55% off when we stacked our 20%. You just can't go wrong at $4 a socket. The clips, hopefully they don't suck. We'll figure that out tomorrow when I go to work. But that's all I got for you, man. Another Zoro tool haul, more Proto stuff, more American made goodness for killer prices. Again, I do think those clips were China. Don't ask me. I didn't jot it down. I'm not going to pull it up, but everything will be linked for your convenience. Again, your prices may vary depending on what's on sale, what kind of discounts you have. Generally 15, 20, 25% on Zoro, you're doing pretty good anyway. And then if it's something else that's already marked down 30, 35, 40%, you get to stack that. And it's insane what you can score sometimes. So with that said, I do hope you enjoyed. If you learned a little something, leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Especially, again, are you a Proto breaker bar person? Do you love them? Do you hate them? If you hate them, why? What are you comparing it to? What are your thoughts on the comfort grip handles? You say, I don't care if I'm going to tear it up. That's why I have it. That's why I bought a lifetime warranty. True, you know, snap-on, you can pull the handle off and get a new one, but I would rather have that standalone and then one that I have bare metal on that I can put the pipe on and not tear my handle up. That does get into a slightly higher expense, but as you grow and gravitate, instead of constantly replacing a $25 handle, you're going to get to have a $30 breaker bar, so you replace that handle twice and you could have had your bare metal handled breaker bar. Granted, this is Proto versus Snap-on, so yes, there's some price discrepancies there. But either way, I think Snap-on, their breaker bar is probably clocking around 100 for an average, like 3/8 by 12, I would guess. So with that in mind, I mean, you go through 3 or 4 handles and you have to say, well, hey, I could have had a bare metal one and never had to get a handle put on this one. But yeah, we will leave it at that. And again, a lot of that's going to vary with your dealer. It's like, hey, you put a pipe on that, I'm not going to replace it, you got to pay for it. Some of them, especially if you're a good customer, you've been with them for years, or you're currently indebted for a massive toolbox you probably shouldn't have bought, they might throw you a bone and put your new handle on for free. Again, just varies driver to driver. But with that said, again, your first-hand experience with any of this stuff, let me know. Anything you want to talk about, feel free. Again, your expertise and opinions here firsthand are very important, valuable for anyone watching the video, skimming the comments, so feel free to share. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts. Again, I encourage you, if you have not subscribed, to do so. If you do that, you ring the bell, you jump your charger across the creek, you grab your grandpa's 1/2 inch Proto breaker bar from the 1960s or 70s. It's still kicking and doing an excellent job in life. YouTube just might notify that we got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks so much for watching. I hope I catch you back here for more from the shop.